Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Pharmacist Diaries podcast. I am super excited today because I have a pharmacy student with me. I'm really excited to announce Surayyah Aziz to the podcast. Our journeys crossed through LinkedIn, and I keep saying this every single time I do an introduction because LinkedIn has been such a powerful platform in terms of finding connections with pharmacy students, trainee pharmacists, and pharmacists on my journey. She has been such an inspiring student and a role model for other pharmacy students, and the conversations that we've had through DMs, through emails, have just been absolutely inspiring, and I cannot wait to showcase her story. So let's just introduce her to the podcast and dive right in. Hello, Surayyah.
Hi, Nisha.
Oh, I'm so excited. I have to dance it out on this one because I'm so happy to have you on the podcast today. I'm not doing my usual professional pharmacist self today. I'm going to be a pretend student version of me. So thank you so much for taking the time to come onto the podcast. Thank you so much for offering to share your story and your journey as a pharmacy student. So, my favorite question, why did you choose pharmacy in the first place?
Well, throughout school, I'm probably going to use the line a lot of people use, which is I really loved science. I've seen it a lot now. But I did really love science at school. But a lot of the time that I spent at school was away from school because I had a lot of health complications growing up. So I ended up staying at home a lot, interacting with my teachers via online means rather than in person a lot of the time. And studying science was one of my fortes. It was one of those things that just clicked. I remember being in 8th grade or year 8, and I had quite a few operations planned in that year and hospital visits. So there was a whole set of months where I was not at school. I'd missed absolutely every science lesson until so. Came back, had the end of year examination, and got the highest in the year group. And my teachers were so confused and amazed because I literally hadn't been in lessons. So it's always been one of those things that I've really enjoyed. And going through school, the sciences have always been split into 3: biology, chemistry, and physics. And in my head, they've been fighting each other because I love all of them. Physics ended up being the one that took precedence for me, and I wanted to kind of see myself in medical physics. But kind of discussing with my family, they wanted me to go into a bit more of a vocational career. So we ended up settling on pharmacy because I do have a few pharmacists in the family too. And it was something that I felt I could kind of merge all my passions together with.
I love that. That's such a cool kind of reason for coming into pharmacy. And I am so proud of you for getting where you are today, especially with kind of medical issues and dealing with surgeries, not being able to go to school as much. That is awesome that you've done so well. And let me just tell the audience that you got 4 A stars. Or was it? Yeah, 4 A stars during your kind of A levels and 1 B, which is still amazing. And you did so well on your journey as an A level student and kind of finishing your initial stage of kind of education and stepping into pharmacy. How has pharmacy been for you in your first year or two as a student? What are you thinking?
So when I started pharmacy school, I thought it was just going to be one of those courses, which was, for me, I'd say there's a lot of courses which were very mentally challenging for me at school. So I thought it was going to be one of those, but I found that there's so much in it. It's really varied. Even from the science to the kind of communication aspects and being able to round off your personality in so many different areas. So I found that I'm a more academically inclined person, and sometimes before pharmacy, I wasn't very kind of socially as great as I could have been. But I think pharmacy has really helped me with this, helped me kind of come out of my shell a lot. It's helped me learn how to be the person on the other side, because for a lot of my life, I was the patient. I was the person who was receiving all that kind of communication and care, but I've been able to see it from the other side now. I'm currently a pharmacy dispenser, so I work in that role alongside my course, and I really enjoy being able to apply what I learn. And at my university, I got to Aston University, which is in Birmingham. we use a lot of AI simulation and sort of 3D and real life modeling to kind of interact with patients. So the simulations are much more lifelike, and that's really helped me. And also just kind of seeing the amount of roles that are in pharmacy has been really eye-opening. It's not just community pharmacy as everyone usually thinks. There's like 101 different roles and as many as you can think of. And I really like that because I don't have to fit myself into one box. And even the concept of portfolio careers really stands out to me because it's something that I definitely like to try out in the future.
I love that. And it's great. Like, you get to explore so much as a pharmacy student, and not just explore what pharmacy has to offer you, but explore who you are and what you like, what you don't like, what you're passionate about, where your strengths are, what skills you have, maybe what skills that you don't have that you need to work on to become an amazing pharmacist. And your your opportunities are so wide. I think it's actually very difficult to be a pharmacy student now because you have so much choice that you don't know what to do with it. But obviously, I hope my podcast is helping people to navigate that. But it is really challenging to figure out what pathway that you're going to go into. What, at this point in your journey, are you thinking about when it comes to your future career?
So in my first year of university, the second I went into university, I knew that my role, like even now or whenever I do enter planting into work, I don't ever think that it's a final role that you always kind of change and kind of adapt and grow as a person. But whatever I end up doing in the future, I know it's not going to be traditional because I always loved physics, as I said before. So it is something that's kind of not the first science you'd associate with pharmacy. But I really, from that, have been able to kind of explore things in terms of integrating physics and pharmacy in terms of research areas. So the one that I'm currently involved with is biomedical photonics, which looks at using light to kind of, let's say we're sort of manipulating light to improve the health of people, whether that is by photoactivation of drugs, for example, whilst in the body, whether that's through using light for diagnostics or even therapeutics at this stage as well. There's so many different ways we can kind of use that, and it's very similar to drugs in itself. So having that chemistry knowledge as well from my medicinal chemistry lectures really does help with that. So I think that's an area that I'm always going to sort of have one leg in, if you like. And then the other thing that really kind of interests me is I recently finished my clinical rotations in hospital, and I absolutely love that. Like, that has been my most favorite placement so far because I loved being on wards. I loved being so involved with patients, and I really saw myself sometimes when I walked up to patients that I remembered when I was in the hospital bed, and like I loved like just having those nurses take their time out to come and talk to me because sometimes it can feel really lonely on that hospital bed. So I really loved being that person who was there for those patients in that time. And for me, I think I really also love working with children. So I definitely want to take a route in pediatrics somewhere as well.
Ah, that's so cool. I mean, you know, I love peds. My husband will be laughing because my sing song will be way too wild for his voice cords on the podcast editing. But I am just loving that because you've seen the patient journey and you know what it's like to be a patient, and now you are stepping on the other side of that and being able to support a patient, a parent, or, you know, even a child within their own journey with regards to health. And that is going to give you, that is experience in itself, right? That is going to give you like the one step up from somebody who hasn't necessarily worked in a hospital environment. A lot of your friends in pharmacy school at the moment, they may step into a hospital environment and it may be the first time they go onto a ward and actually see sick people. And that is hard.
The hospital that I was on placement at was actually the hospital I was born at. So the one I've just finished off from. And I was 3 months premature, and I think I had a 10 to 20% survival rate. So it was quite low at the time. And I also had to have what's called a patent ductus arthrosis, or PDA, quite early on as well. So mine was actually quite the much after birth, which usually it's a week in maybe, but mine was very immediate because it was a very critical condition. And when I went back to the neonatal ward, which just happened to be that day, my pharmacist, who I was supposed to have as my supervisor, was not in. So there was a pharmacist who was going on neonate, and she said, "Hey, do you want to come with me?" And I was like, "Okay." And when I went there, I realized, wait, this is where I was born. And then there was actually quite a few nurses who were there when I was actually born at the time. So they said, "We probably even looked after you at that point." So that really was quite cool for me. And it made me like think, even if I didn't know what pharmacy was going to lead me into, I feel like God's got my back in this case. Like God's kind of leading my life, if you like. Like there's so much in pharmacy that, it's allowed me to see things and connect back to things. And it's kind of it's always kind of bringing my life full circle in terms of being able to see why everything has happened from the start. It really has kind of shaped my future. I guess even now, like pediatrics is one of the things that I'm sort of thinking about more and more because of that experience seeing that neonates ward. And I did a reflection on it as well. And this is something that I would encourage students to do. In terms of, like, I know you talk a lot about using your diary and putting pen to paper. And even after like professional experiences or even at university, they might make you do activities. I guess nowadays it's a lot more on your laptop or your computer or online on your portfolios. But even just putting pen to paper and reflecting on an experience like that, like I guess maybe there wasn't space in my placement booklet to talk about all those feelings I had to actually meet those nurses and connecting back to the place I was born. But just having my own diary to put that in was really nice for me.
That is awesome. And your whole journey is super personal, and it must have just felt so surreal being back on a ward as the healthcare professional. And I know you're a student and you were there on placement, but this is where you are trending towards. So, it must feel surreal to even be around healthcare professionals who are potentially working there and supported you on your journey when you were a little NICU baby. And I love that you are making that connection so personal, like you're really thinking and reflecting about things that are happening in your day-to-day life and allowing those reflections to support you on your journey into pharmacy and what decisions that you make as a pharmacist. I think it's so, I love a diary, and it's so important to write things down because sometimes what you have in your head when you put it down on paper or you type it up in your phone, in your notebook, whatever it is, those thoughts, when you read them back, they can really shift your mindset or help you make decisions or turn something negative into a positive. And it's just so powerful. And, it's great that you're using that on a daily basis, not just for your pharmacy workbook, for student life, but in your own diary. I think that is really powerful when it comes to a lot of the achievements that you've had as a student so far. I mean, I would really love to share that you were elected as president of Aston West, which is the Women in Engineering, Science and Technology Society for 2024-2025. You've also been selected as a recipient of the Women in STEM scholarship funded by the CEO at Procter & Gamble, which is super amazing. And you've been working as a scientific researcher. Actually not working as, you've become a scientific researcher who's published in the Harvard GSAS journal in the field of astrophysics. So this is all incredible work, and you are only in your second year of pharmacy school. It's such a big question, but it's like, how did you get these awards? Like, how did you feel motivated to get involved? Where are you finding these opportunities? This is what I know that students who are listening to this or watching this episode will be asking, because it's very inspiring to see where you are now. But for them, it's about the education as to how you did those things and how you found those opportunities. So maybe you can share a little bit about that. Hi, I've been looking at some recent clinical studies that have shown promising results for curcumin in joint health. Curcumin is the active ingredient in turmeric, which you have most likely used when cooking delicious curries. One study found curcumin extracts to be as effective as ibuprofen for the treatment of knee osteoarthritis, but without the side effects. It is a powerful and natural anti-inflammatory agent and soothes joint and muscle discomfort. Naturaflex Turmeric, made by the Naked Pharmacy, capitalizes on these findings, providing a high-strength and well-absorbed supplement. If you are interested in a natural alternative backed by scientific research, Naturaflex presents a compelling option. Explore the potential at the Naked Pharmacy and use discount code PD20 for 20% off your purchase today.
So I guess to explain this properly, I'm going to flip it on its head and take you to actually a low moment of my life. So when in my first year of university, I found my mental health was suffering a lot. And I had to go, well, I didn't have to go, but I took myself to what was a free of point counselling service at my university, which I'm so grateful for, by the way. So I guess a little plug here is if you've got a mental health service at your university, definitely use it, even if the matter seems small. So going back to this, I went to one of the counsellors there and I was consistently going in to see her. It was literally just whenever I felt at a low point, I'd pop her an email. She'd be like, yeah, come in and see me and we'll have a chat. And I'd have an hour to just, it's almost like writing a diary, just saying whatever's in my head, but having somebody there to listen. And she wouldn't really interrupt me. It would literally be a flow of like a good 20 minutes. And then she might pop in with something and then I'll kind of go off again for another 20 minutes and she'll say something. And one of the things she said to me was about how I felt so low about myself, but at the same time, I'd said all these things that I'd done to her, but I'd never given myself the chance to realize how much I'd done in my life. And I never gave myself the chance to understand why I was the way I was. And she asked me the question you literally just asked me, like, why is it that you've done all this? How have you done all this? And the first thing that came out of my mouth, and I guess this is something that I never really thought of deeply until someone else had asked me, was that I have been through so much in my life that I feel like I have to do more than what I did yesterday. Like I keep having to do more constantly to prove myself, not just to myself, but to others. I feel like I've had so many disadvantages, like I've been stereotyped for being a woman, being colored, having a bunch of hidden disabilities, having things that people can't see. I remember being the girl in this sports lessons who wasn't always able to participate. I've been bullied at school a lot, and I felt like I was almost always the underdog, and I needed to kind of prove myself consistently. And I have a lot of people, and especially my close friends, telling me that you need a break. Like you never get a break. You're always working, which is crazy because obviously now I do make sure that I get breaks. But until like my first year of university, I didn't even realize I was that hard on myself. So I will admit that it was a bit of like running and running and running and running and never stopping and just constantly like also talking to people, not being afraid to open up to people and asking them. So for example, the journal that I published, that was because I had a really close kind of bond with my physics teacher, hence why I really love physics. And he essentially was one of those people who was always there for me when I wasn't at school, when I was very ill. He'd still stay in contact with me, ask me how I was. He didn't really have to because, it'd been the holidays. I remember at one point he was in the Amazon rainforest and he was like, hey, are you okay? And I was like, you know what? There's so many people on this planet who have forgotten about me, but he will definitely not forget about me. So having like a supportive people in your life, it's definitely helped me a lot. Just knowing who's really there for you. So he essentially got in contact with the charity, and they were there for people like me who come from inner-state state schools. I come from quite an impoverished background. As I said, I'm someone who isn't always represented in STEM, so I'm a woman of colour. And so I use my what would be perceived as weaknesses as my strengths. And I just let people know about them, be loud, be proud, and shout them out. And literally, the more people you talk to, the more people you know, the more people you network with. And I guess the more you also explore yourself, that's really how you kind of find out what you want to do in life. But it'll also just automatically motivate you to do things. Like I wasn't consciously thinking, oh yes, I'm going to do this research project and write this journal. Somebody happened in that charity to see my work and say, hey, this looks so good, why don't we publish it? And at the time, there was nothing in my head that went, no, there's no reason to do this. So I just did it. I think the second you start saying no to things, obviously, I guess you have to say no when things are too much for you or when you need to obviously maintain healthy boundaries with certain aspects of things. But if there's nothing stopping you, I think if it is something that is beneficial, you shouldn't be afraid. You should definitely go for it. So I think that's how it's been for me ever since. Like all those three examples that you've just described, it's the exact same thing. Someone's come up to me and said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And I've been like, "Well, why not?" Also, I feel that having more in my day and more to do gives my mind like a safe space to sort of be in. It's like if I'm occupying my mind, then I'm not thinking about those doom and gloom thoughts and those thoughts that you don't want to occupy yourself with. So that's why I like getting a lot done in my day and effectively planning your day too. So not giving yourself the time to procrastinate or, lay about and waste time. Obviously, there's times and places where you do need a break and you just need to sit down, relax, sit back and just unwind. But I think it's knowing where and when's the place to effectively use your time and maximize your potential and where you can sort of sit back and relax as well and just knowing yourself, I guess, creates that for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's awesome. And by the way, you have me now. I'm in your corner.
Yeah.
I'm in your corner. And I'm like ready to make sure that you're like the most successful pharmacist because you're so inspiring when it comes to being a student. And even just like I told you in emails, that your emails are so professional and incredible. And I just love the way that you portray yourself with your confidence and you're just like your honesty and just, I love the be loud and proud kind of concept that you've got there. And I just love how enthusiastic you are for being the best version of you. Forget pharmacy, but just being the best version of you and just tuning into all the things that you like, tuning into all the things that you're good at. And you are very open to networking, to finding people to connect with that are of interest to you. And then opportunities kind of come your way, don't they? And being open and to receiving those opportunities when sometimes you least expect it are the best opportunities that come in your journey, right? And when it comes to mental health and when you look at balance and relaxation, what do you do to chill out? What do you do to enjoy yourself? And I know you're going to tell me reading is one of those things. And probably reading books that are either self-development or pharmacy related or maybe scientific. But what do you do which is like non-work, non-pharmacy, moving yourself forward type of fun?
Well, when I was at sixth form, it was a lot of astrophysics books, which is science books, and I guess which is why I was so interested in kind of getting the astrophysics research project done because it was just initially an EPQ project, which is just one of those qualifications you could take alongside your A levels, and I didn't really expect it to go anywhere at all, and it did. But the other thing I really love doing is kind of like 60s, 70s, and 80s soul music, and I'm also like just like a big music fan. I love music like a lot. It really just helps me unwind. Just, if I'm studying in the library and I'm just like feeling myself zoning out, thinking I just can't do this anymore. I just literally get up, leave my stuff where it is. I don't even care who touches it or rubs it or whatever. I just walk out of the library with my headphones on and just watch the trees, watch the birds, and just listen to some music. And it's literally uh, just knowing, I guess, being very kind of self-conscious and self-aware and knowing when enough's enough, even if to everyone else it looks really weird. I will literally just get up and walk away. Sometimes even if I'm sitting in a lecture and I feel like, you know what, I just can't listen to this anymore. Like it's recorded and I can go back. I will literally just get up and have a moment and walk out. But I guess it does come down to self-preservation. And I guess mental health, I think it's become very commercialized as well. I think there's so many things that people can almost sell you and tell you, oh, do this, buy this, purchase this course, learn about this, here's a stressful, I don't know. But even just being a bit more aware about yourself, because imagine those people who can't afford those things, or those people who haven't been taught, or the people who don't have access to resources. How are they preserving their mental health? Well, I guess it's being more self-aware and knowing who you are, knowing your limits, knowing your boundaries, and as I said, having that amazing support network. Like I have you now, I have everybody who's in my support network. If you just need a conversation, if you need a chat, if something's playing on your mind, my number one tip would be don't, keep it inside your head, because that's just going to feed a negative loop of thoughts. Just tell someone about it. And I think that's where the kind of concept of me kind of pushing myself to go to counseling in my first year of university came from as well. And I know at university there's like a whole range of things. We have what's called the mental health and well-being hub. Every university and every academic institution, every workplace will have somebody or someone you can reach out to if you are struggling. But other than reading and listening to music, I've never really been able to answer this question otherwise, because I think it is about maybe just reflecting on myself otherwise. So maybe putting pen to paper, or, trying to go back and see what's my top three achievements of the day? What's been my top three highlights in the week? Something like that, to make myself realize and put into perspective what's gone on. Because I feel like if I'm constantly pushing myself forward, I'll miss sight of everything that's already happened. And I think that's what I was doing before, especially to kind of run away from all the stress from my health conditions, which was what was causing that unhealthy mindset. And that's what's really changed in me.
Oh, that's awesome. And thanks for sharing that, because it is quite personal. And I think you have so much to look forward to, because you are still on this massive learning journey. You've learned so much about yourself and you're doing all these incredible things, but you have so far to go, which is so exciting. So many cool things are going to happen in the next few years. Do tell me, I'm going to ask you one more question. It's like, what is the one thing that you're like really looking forward to for the rest of 2024, or kind of like the start of the university year?
It's actually something really small, but it's getting my NHS smart card because I've always been on placement and seen the smart cards. And actually, when I went into the hospital, one of the things we were constantly told was our placement was it was planned a bit late. So we couldn't do a lot of that sort of more on the computer sort of technical activities, because we just missing that NHS smart card. And I'm so excited to just get that and see how it looks and just feel like I have the power of the smart card.
That is so awesome. I love that, because you know what? It's really important to focus on the small wins. It's really important to focus on the tiny things that happen in your life and to celebrate those. So hopefully you get it in the post, because that is very cool. I've just loved this conversation, and I could probably talk for hours with you. Just about all the things that have been happening. We should do like a yearly podcast, like the Surayyah's Life in Pharmacy, and just give yearly updates about all the incredible things that you are doing. Hold me accountable to that, because, hold me accountable to that. Let's do it. It'll be really fun, because it will just be like your journey as a story, where you started, where you're going, and then what happens when you actually become a pharmacist. Because I am sure a lot of people listening to this episode are going to be wondering where your journey goes. I am going to share your LinkedIn profile for sure on my show notes for this episode, so people can connect with you. And hopefully some students will reach out to you for advice and support, and I'm sure to make a connection and a new friend. Thank you so much for giving me your time and your energy, and giving us so much advice as well. Like, a lot of the tips that you've given, there are pharmacists who've got like 20 years of experience who haven't still figured out that reflection is like one of the most powerful tools on the planet. So just awesome. And make sure that you keep in touch with me. And thank you again. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Anisha. And to anyone who does want to reach out to me, I've done like a whole host of absolutely anything from like, I just do Zoom calls for anything, literally. Like, you can ask me, I don't know where to start with my LinkedIn, and I would be sitting there for the next 4 hours doing your LinkedIn up for you. So I'm really open to absolutely anything that anyone needs help.
You're very kind. Okay, cool. Let's do this, and we will catch up another time.